Oops, let me hit that one. Hello, everybody. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Doing this one solo today, just a few stories, so it's going to be a little bit of a shorter show. We're going to have a couple stories about Tennessee and one press release from SAF. I want to remind everybody as we get going, if you're watching us on the Polite Society Podcast, Facebook, or YouTube feeds, you can comment on those live videos. I get those comments right away. I'll get them up. Pretty much wherever you're at, you can comment. I usually get those very quickly and can get them up on the air while we're still on the same topic. If you do comment and you do not see your comment right away show up on the screen or hear me talk about it, because in Rumble I don't have the ability, if you're watching us live on Rumble, and thank you, by the way, if you are. Let's see here, and there we go. If you're watching us live on Rumble, I can see the comments, but I cannot pull them and put them on the air, so I'll just mention them and get going. We've got a really good subscriber base going on Rumble. Thank you to everybody that has been subscribing and watching on Rumble, whether live or on the replay. So, getting people checking in, I guess it's go ahead and time to get started here. I'm going to go ahead, and those of you who watched Polite Society know that I've been playing with AI reading, because AI can honestly do a better job than I can reading after my medical issues a couple years ago. So I'm going to lean on that more and more to read the story so it comes out clearly the first time and you don't hear this stumbling, mumbling come out of my mouth as I try to get my words across, or get their words across. My words seem to come better than they used to. So let's go ahead and get started with this first story. This is a press release from SAF.
Attorneys representing the Second Amendment Foundation, SAF, and its partners in a federal lawsuit challenging New Jersey's Sensitive Places statute have filed a response brief to the state's appeal. The case is now known as Coons v. Platkin. In May, U.S. District Court Judge Renee Marie Baum granted a preliminary injunction against the state. New Jersey sought a stay of that order pending appeal, to which Second Amendment Foundation filed a brief in opposition. SAF is joined by the Firearms Policy Coalition, the Coalition of New Jersey Firearm Owners, New Jersey Second Amendment Society, and 4 private citizens. The state is trying to justify the challenged provisions of its Sensitive Places law, which makes it virtually impossible for people with carry permits to actually go to most places, noted SAF founder and Executive Vice President Alan M. Gottlieb. Essentially, Garden State residents can walk out the front door with their legally carried firearms, but they can't really go anywhere. We maintain the district court acted properly by issuing a preliminary injunction against enforcement of this Sensitive Places statute, added SAF Executive Director Adam Kraut. The anti-carry default provision of the law, which prohibits carrying on private property without the owner's express permission, is tantamount to prohibiting lawful carry in most public places. The section prohibiting carrying a gun in a vehicle, unless the gun is unloaded and placed in a securely fastened case, literally makes legal carry impossible while traveling. Both Second Amendment Foundation officials say it is impossible for the state to show the challenged provisions of the law, known as Chapter 131, are consistent with a historical tradition of firearm regulation. It is a requirement of the Supreme Court's Berman ruling last year, Kraut noted, and they can't meet that requirement because there was no such founding-era tradition. The state has failed to show such examples, and the injunctions should be upheld.
I believe, honestly, the injunctions will be upheld. If not at the Third Circuit level, at the very least at the Supreme Court. Look, and I want to go, I don't have anybody from New Jersey here today, so I don't have anybody with first-person knowledge to this, but if you can't get in your car with a concealed carry on you. That is effectively a total ban on carrying. When was the last time, and I don't care where in the country you live, but especially if you do live or have lived in New Jersey, if you want to take your wife out to dinner and you want to be able to defend yourself while you do so, even if the restaurant, as they would have to, posts you are allowed to conceal carry here, the current law that has got the injunction against it says that you cannot carry inside your car. When was the last time you walked to dinner with your wife? Is there a restaurant within walking distance of your home? In some downtown places, downtown apartments, there may be. Even in my hometown here of Sioux Falls, from where this picture is taking, just off to, off to that direction a little bit, there are condos and a thriving downtown area where it is maybe 5 or 6 blocks between some of the condos and a restaurant. But that is the extreme rarity, and it's the elites. Let's face it. Those apartments over there. Let me get the direction right. The apartments right over there. They're expensive apartments. Not any place I could afford. I couldn't afford to live there on triple my current salary. So yeah, for the very elite few, there are abilities to walk here in Sioux Falls where you don't have to have a permit to dinner with your wife and still be able to protect yourself if you could not carry in a car. In New Jersey, I'm going to say for north of 99.5% of the public, that's they're stuck. So yeah, you get a comment in here from Spartan 6. I just happened to look over. He says, note to self, stay out of New Jersey. Yeah, and it's a shame because I know a lot of great people from New Jersey, and I've driven through Jersey many times as a truck driver. It's a beautiful state. It's got terrible laws, but I've met very nice people from there, and you know, it's a shame they've got to go through this. So, but yeah, I do believe even and I'm not an attorney, and I don't play one on YouTube. I don't play one on Facebook. My crystal ball is obviously not perfect, but I do see these standing. I do see these injunctions stand. I don't see them going away. I could be surprised, but let's go ahead and go to the next 2 stories, and that's all I've got today is 2 more stories. They're both Tennessee stories. Of course, Tennessee, you know, has got that special session where they're trying to push gun control going forward. Let's go ahead and let's get this first one out of the way.
Tennessee's Republican-led legislature is meeting in special session this week to consider a package of public safety proposals, including some stemming from a deadly shooting at a Nashville elementary school earlier this year. Though the session is not expected to result in any new firearms restrictions, it nonetheless highlights the widely divergent response among states to a spate of mass shootings across the U.S. More than half the states have enacted substantive new laws this year regarding gun policies or school safety measures, most often tightening firearm restrictions in Democratic-led states and loosening them in Republican-led ones. Some states also have pumped money into efforts to secure schools or to train teachers and staff how to respond in shootings. Republican Governor Bill Lee has outlined an 18-prong agenda for Tennessee lawmakers to consider during their special session.
I'm going to pause it right there. 18 prong. And let's get this straight. It's 18, and I'm going to guess 15 of those are gun restrictions. We'll get to the rest of it in my comments here in just a little bit.
The proposal that has gotten the most public attention also appears among the least likely to pass. It would allow judges to order the temporary removal of guns from people determined to be a risk of killing themselves or others. Laws allowing extreme risk protection orders already are in place 21 states and the District of Columbia, according to the Giffords Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence. That includes Michigan and Minnesota, where new Democratic legislative majorities passed so-called red flag laws this year. Lee has shied away from referring to his proposal as a red flag law, emphasizing that it would allow guns to be removed only upon clear and convincing evidence during a court proceeding, and not before the person's court appearance. The shooter that killed 6 people, including 3 students, at the Covenant School in Nashville had been under a doctor's care for an emotional disorder, police said, but there were no legal steps to prevent the person from buying guns. Tennessee's special session agenda also includes legislation regarding mental health resources, school safety plans, and tougher penalties for some crimes.
All right. I'm going to go up on red flag laws a little bit here, and I do that often, but I don't think it can be said enough. Red flag laws, if they are narrow in scope and only a few people, such as family and law enforcement can start them. Families never, ever, ever want to do this. It is so exceedingly rare for a family to bring another family member up for red flag law simply because they think they can handle it. They think they're doing a fantastic job. And I've heard this from a lot of people, including some people who probably shouldn't say it. Well, I was raised this way and I turned out just fine. Even from some jacked up people, I've heard that. Well, you know what? You may not be the most objective person to make that statement because everybody thinks that they are normal. Everybody thinks they are normal. Even axe murderers think they're normal. I cannot remember who it was. I believe it was Babyface Nelson, the famous gangster from the 30s, when he was in a shootout with law enforcement in which he eventually died. He wrote a note, and as before he died, he wrote a note, and I'm trying to remember the exact quote. My brain is just not bringing it forward, but I believe it said something to the effect of, "In this chest beats the heart of a kind man." This from a multiple murderer. Everybody thinks they're normal. Every family thinks they have a normal family. They do not want to report and start the proceedings to have their loved ones' guns taken away. 2 reasons for that. Number one, they love that person. They know, especially if there's not a lot of places that can report and start a red flag proceeding, the family's going to know that another family member did it. They're going to suspect, and they want to keep good relations. They don't want to stir the pot with that individual if they do know something is bad. Secondly, the families are never really certain that it's going to stop right there, that only the guns are going to be taken away. Third, I think most families are going to realize this is going to set that person off, and if they are slightly unstable, yeah, you take away their guns. Do you take away the kitchen knives? Do you take away anything else? No, they don't. Do any of the red flag laws go get that person help? No, they don't. We've had for years and years and years the ability in every state in the nation to have somebody involuntarily committed for psychiatric holds for 72 hours. Every state in the nation has it. It's rarely used. When it's used, it's effective. But it's not used very often, and I would rather the person get help than the gun. The gun doesn't need any help. The gun's doing just fine. The person is the one that needs the help. So what these red flags laws do, I coined this a while back, they don't do anything for the person, they arrest the gun. Get this one in again from Spartan 6. Jump back here. He says, No, Paul, they're trying to push usurpation of constitutional rights. There's going to be a little bit of that in the third story we have tonight. Speaking of, let's go ahead and let's cue that third story up and let it roll.
State Senator Art Swan considers himself a gun enthusiast, but he believes this special session of the legislature should be used to nip mass shootings in the bud, in part by restricting heavy firepower. I'd like to see us address the AK-47s, something that could shoot that many times in a few seconds. It's something that doesn't belong in anything but a military situation, Swan said Monday, hours before the start of the session called by Governor Bill Lee to respond to killings at the Covenant School in South Nashville. The Maryville Republican, who is likely to face primary competition in the next election.
Gee, you think? He's this Republican is going for the assault weapon ban in Tennessee, and he might get competition in his primary. The dude doesn't stand a chance. This is his career-ending statement. He's out of the legislature. He's out of the legislature for good. If the good voters in his district in Tennessee have any common sense at all, he's just plain gone. And he's proof that just because there's an R behind the name does not mean he's a friend of liberty. But this is just a small thing. It's just taking away the AK-47s. Well, no. If you notice it back in here, let me go to that. I'd like to see us address the AK-47, something that could shoot many times in a few seconds. Well, guess what else does that? And more reliably, if you ask me, the AR-15. Well, reliability, maybe not on reliability, but certainly on accuracy. The AR does much better than the AK-47. You better believe anybody that's going to be pushing for a ban on AK-47s is going to push for a ban on ARs. Let's finish this story up quick.
Said he believes as long as high-capacity, military-type weapons are available to the public, they could be used to wreak havoc. Those types of bills, though, aren't being allowed in this special session because they lie outside the scope of the governor's call, which focuses primarily on school safety, mental health, and juvenile crime.
Okay, let me back up again. We got a little bit more to this story, but let me back up again here. You notice as soon as I resumed that story, he goes into large capacity magazines. So there goes your 17-round capacity for your standard Glock Model 17, where it ships to most states in the United States. When you buy a Glock 17, you get 2 17-round mags, and then most of us buy some more because 2 is 1, 1 is none, 3 might just be enough. But at any rate, there go your standard capacity magazines. Pretty soon we're going to be down to 6 shooters, and honestly, if they get their way, we're going to be down to single shots. We're going to be down to flintlocks again. So let's finish this story up.
In that vein, groups such as Moms Demand Action and those representing Covenant school parents lobbied lawmakers heavily for strong gun storage rules, a red flag law, and beefed up background checks for gun purchases. Women connected with Covenant school groups held signs outside the Senate chamber, but rallies were tamed compared to past protests because of rules adopted to prevent violations of decorum and restrictions on entrance into the Capitol.
Well, that's fairly good news. Now, fairly good news in that they can't storm the Capitol with a bullhorn and get representatives to shout into the bullhorn there like happened earlier this year. And 3 Tennessee Democrats lost their seats. They were kicked out, and then the federal government made Tennessee let them back in. But at any rate, two parts. Number one, I am both a First Amendment and a Second Amendment absolutist. I believe you have the absolute right to say anything to your heart's desire, and you should be able to say that anywhere, even if it offends somebody. You should be able to say it. Now, what do you have the right to go in and disrupt the legislative process in any state or the federal government? That, you have the right to say it. It's just you may not be able to say it in some settings. And should you be able to? I don't know. We could have a deep discussion about that. But at some point, you go from free speech to disturbing the peace to other things. I'll stick to my YouTube channel. I'll stick to my Facebook channel and Rumble, and I don't want to go, stirring the pot that badly that I disrupt things. So, get 2 comments in here real quick. Come back here and hit that guy. Auto AKs are already illegal, and like we discussed Monday night on Polite Society, yeah, full auto is. And what if you're Jerry Mikulik? What if you can fire nearly as fast, or maybe as fast, or faster than a full auto? Spartan 6 says, if AKs are so dangerous, why does SWAT need them? Think about it. The only scenario in which SWAT or police will ever use ARs is against citizens of their towns or cities. That's a great point. But you know what? They don't call them ARs or AKs when they're issued to SWAT teams, or even when they're issued to patrol officers. They are patrol rifles, and they're never assault weapons. They're patrol rifles. The vast majority of them, when they are issued to local law enforcement, they're the exact same ones you can buy off the shelf. There is a minority of them that do have the fun switch. So, but again, the 1934 Gun Control Act and the 1984 law that banned the Firearms Owners Protection Act, very badly named, but that was the law, banned the sale of any full auto manufactured after 1984. But that doesn't apply to any level of government. Not your city, not your county, state, or of course the federal government. So, random thought, how do I become a level of government? Can I buy 100 acres outside of town and create Paulville? And I would, of course, be the mayor and chief law enforcement officer of Paulville. Could I then get full auto AR, full auto? Actually, they're M4s. If it's a AR-15 size, that would be an M4. Could I then get an M4 because I am the chief law enforcement officer of Paulville? And come to think of it, I could then get that MRAP. I could get all kinds of things for the law enforcement division of Paulville. That's got me thinking. All right, well, that's going to do it for our stories today. Real quickly, I want to mention, if you are in Second Amendment media, your time is running out. We need to shut down registration here in the next couple weeks. Please consider, if you're going to GRPC, go to AmCon as well. Phoenix, the 20... Let me get my calendar up, because my brain is just not firing on all cylinders tonight. And my memory is 22nd of September in Phoenix is AmCon. 23rd and 24th is GRPC in Phoenix this year. I would love to see you if you are in Second Amendment media. I would love to see you at AmCon. And no matter who you are, If you are interested in gun rights, you need to be at GRPC. You can sign up for GRPC at saf.org/GRPC. Absolutely no cost for either event. SAF will buy you lunch on Friday at AmCon. They'll buy you lunch Saturday at GRPC. And I believe they buy you dinner. There's a dinner reception both Friday and Saturday nights that SAF pays for. Plus, they give you hundreds of dollars worth of books when you attend. So, again, shameless plug. Attend GRPC. Sign up for AmCon. AmCon is AMMCON.org, and you can get signed up there. We'll teach you about branding. We'll teach you about video editing. We'll teach you a whole lot of great stuff to help make your Second Amendment better, Second Amendment media better, give you a better reach, make you more successful. That's going to do it for me today. We're in a little bit under the 30 minutes, but yeah, you get what you pay for. You know what I mean? So that's it for today. We're going to go ahead and shut this down. Please do come join me Thursday, because tomorrow I've got AmCon and GRPC conference calls I've got to be doing during this exact time. So come join me Thursday evening, 7 p.m. Central, the only time zone that matters, and we'll give you the Second Amendment news of the day then as well. Thanks for watching, everybody. Podcast listeners, thank you for listening.